Good morning, everybody. How's it going? Before participating in our Tuesday Zoom, it is the 14th of March, and we're really excited to have you guys a part of our education. My name is Andrew Velasquez, and I am the educator with CAO Cosmetics. It is spelled CAO, and it is pronounced Co. I know a lot of people get confused on how to pronounce it, so I just want to clarify that. I'm really happy to be a part of today's class. As you know or might not know, I have been with CAO Cosmetics for about 8 years now. I am a licensed cosmetologist from the Los Angeles area. Our focus today as CAO Cosmetics is to focus on our philosophy, which is basically the co-mixology. And as all of you as cosmetology students might understand this, it's basically everything that is taught through color theory. And that is our focus with the brand, that is our focus with our tools. And what I'm gonna do today first is walk you through a face chart workshop. And I have my silhouette of this face chart. It's just a half size. And I'm gonna walk you through all the steps of our bridal focus. So that is the look that we're covering today. After I complete the look on the face chart, I'm then going to demonstrate it on myself. I'm not a pretty bride, but I will try my hardest to walk you through the techniques. I think most importantly, our takeaway for you is to take these exercises and these techniques and make them work for yourself and for your scenarios in the future. So what I'm gonna do now is just kind of pan the camera down so you can see my station and my setup. All right, so starting on this side, I have basically all of my complexion. Everything is laid out in palettes. I have my cream palette for blushes, my powder blushes, my 2 foundation cream palettes as well. This is my corrective palette, so these are more for corrective makeup, for highlighting, contouring of that sort, so I'll cover that as well. I have our new liquid foundations over here that I can talk about briefly. We haven't launched that as of yet, but I'm definitely excited to show you that. I have all of my items for sanitation. So my spatula, my palette, my eyelash curler, my sharpener, and my disposable items that are gonna help me stay sanitary. My sponges, my spoolies, etc. And then I have my face chart that I just talked to you about, which I'll be able to demonstrate shortly. Moving on to this side of my station, I have basically all of the colors. So the 3 eyeshadow palettes, our smoky palette, our editorial palette, and our high fashion palette. All our lip glosses, our award-winning liquid mattes, which are my favorite products over here, our amazing lashes as well. We have 2 different styles that I'm happy to go over. Our vegan brushes, which I'll be breaking down and itemizing each one and what the specifics for their jobs are. And then obviously all the items that you're gonna need to practice sanitation. So our hand sanitizer, our 99% alcohol, our brush cleaner, and our skincare items. All the things that are gonna help practice sanitation is definitely a focus overall. Hope you're excited. I'm excited to definitely teach because I miss teaching so much. I miss being in the classroom with all of my students, and I love mentoring, and that's definitely my focus. As far as with CAO, I'm a big part of our product development, so I work hands-on with Ali CAO, who is the founder of CAO Cosmetics, and I'm happy to advise on what pigments are needed or what maybe the finish should look like, because I not only work in the salon, but I work on set as well, so I can definitely have say and expertise for both the salon and the studio. And all right, so the first thing that you want to do is pick up a sponge like so, and I actually like to match the complexion of my face chart to the complexion of my model or my client's face. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up some of that powder, just using the wedge of the sponge in a circular motion, and then gliding it onto the face chart to get just a nice, even, smooth complexion. I really like the powder zero because it works for all skin tones and skin types. It's basically a translucent powder that is used to set your cream products. It's great for baking technique. It's great for highlighting, depending on the skin tone and how tan you might be. But once you get a nice even coat of this beautiful powder zero, then obviously I'm avoiding the eye area and the lip area. And then what you could do is take a larger brush and just kind of blend away any of the excess powder. Now, utilizing the same sponge, I'm going to use our powder bronze to start to create some shading and some dimension. So utilizing the wedge part, which is the triangle part of this sponge, will allow me to just kind of hug in the contours underneath that jawline, the cheekbone, and also the hairline. On a real application, I would use this for the same functionality. And that's also part of our philosophy with CAO Cosmetics, is that our products are multi-functioning, multi-purpose. So it's not only great for practicing, but it's great for all environments, whether it's in a salon or a studio. I'm also going to contour a little bit on the nose. So taking that edge of this wedge and just start to go in the center of the nostril up towards the crease of the eye, just to get some shading. Beautiful. So now we're going to move on to the blush palette and take a round tapered brush just like this. That's typically for foundation. This is number 116. And I'm going to go ahead and use this beautiful color called American Beauty directly underneath the eye, right at the apple of the cheek in circular motions. I'm going to go up into the contour and then just dab off any excess. If at any point you feel like, oh, I don't like it, I got too much product on there, you can go back with your powder zero and just kind of blend some of that away. And it completely tones it down so it looks a little bit more like it's on the skin versus sitting on top of the surface. All right, let's move on to the eyebrows. So for eyebrows, we're gonna use an angle brush, which is number 102, just like this. And we're also gonna incorporate our smoky eyeshadow palette right over here. So down the center of the nose, which would be right over here. And that's where your eyebrow would begin. So as I kind of line that up, I create this little like silhouette. That's my first mark. Eyebrows are always going to end outside nostril corner of the eye. And honestly, this works for any face shape, any eye shape. This is a universal philosophy that we take at the tip of the nostril, which is right over here, right above the iris of the eye. And the pupil is the highest portion of your eyebrow. So basically this part is the highest, this is in the center, and this is the lowest, and that's how you create this gorgeous arch. So at this point, because we're going to start to work on the eye area, I recommend you cover the face that you're not working on and start to begin the bottom of the eyebrow. And if you notice, I kind of use the side of my brush just to create tiny little wisps and almost like hair stroke effects. I'm going to show you with another technique and a different product on how to make this a little bit more realistic, not as powdery. And this also works for a real live eyebrow. All right, so once you get a beautiful arch shape, notice that the definition is initially on the bottom of the eyebrow, and that makes it a little bit more authentic looking, not as made up. The top of your eyebrow should always be a little bit softer and more wispy, where this part is, it's okay to have that like darker definition. Beautiful. Honestly, this is a look by itself already. Just complexion and eyebrows, like that would be an everyday look. But we're not going to stop there. We're going to move on to adding a little bit more dimension. So now we're going to incorporate our liquid mattes. So before I introduce that, I'm going to talk about all the different colors. We have our three primary colors. So liquid matte is basically a pure pigment. This is a pure concentrate that you can use to make anything you want. All you have to do is introduce a little bit of white to it if you want to make it more pastel, or introduce a little bit of black if you want to make it a little bit more intense and saturated, or maybe you want something shimmery. Then we have our two gold and silver liquid mattes that actually have an illuminating factor with a shimmer and a high mica infused into the product. So these are all multi-functioning, multi-mixing. You can use any of these within one another, and it's safe for the eyes, the lips, the hair. You can pretty much use it wherever you want. So what I'm going to do now is try to make a brown on my palette to create more definition for that. So obviously the base of a brown is always going to be a red because there's definitely some warmth into the brown. I'm also going to add yellow. So once we get the yellow and the red, that basically creates orange, which is our secondary color. Adding a little bit of the blue. This is the most pigmented, so a small drop of that is sufficient enough. So let's go from there. I'm going to take another thin brush, which is our 101. It's basically just like a line brush. I'm going to start to mix the red and the orange, or sorry, the red and the yellow to create the orange, and then slowly creep in that blue. And there we go. We have this gorgeous, beautiful brown, but I don't think it's as dark as I want. So obviously adding a drop of black will be ideal. A little bit of this product goes such a long way, you guys. It's a very innovative product that I love to incorporate for so many different looks. All right, so let's go ahead and put these aside now. And bring back our eyebrow. So basically with this brush, you can create tiny little wispy effects. So that's how you take, basically creating the silhouette of the brow with the powder first, and then utilizing the liquid matte to create more of a hair stroke, three-dimensional effect. And this would obviously work on a real live person or model as well. Gorgeous.
Just a moment.
No, Siri, I'm not talking to you. Sorry about that. All right, so we have our complexion, we have our beautiful eyebrow. Now we're gonna move on to the eyeshadow area. All right, so let's go ahead and take these dirty brushes away. Always try to separate your used products from your sanitized products so that way you don't mix them up. So for eyeshadow, we're gonna start with a flat brush, number 112, which is just like so. I like the fact that it has like a nice paddle, but a rounded tapered edge, which is gonna allow for some great blending. Obviously on a real eye, I would use a primer first or a concealer to lay down. But for a face chart, I'm just gonna start with this beautiful color called Virtue. And this goes right under the eyebrow as your highlight. Just pressing it firmly onto the face chart. So for a bridal look, I think it should always be about, you know, keeping her looking like herself and just enhancing her overall look. I mean, I think it's ideal to have a trial or a rehearsal with your future bride. That way you can kind of game plan and go through all the different products that are going to be used. So after we've used the Virtue, then we're going to take our color Gentle, and that's going to be incorporated into the crease. So basically it's an enhanced version of herself. I think she should look still the same, but just photo ready, and maybe really focusing on one of the features that she's really fond of. Maybe it's her eyes, maybe it's the lips. but would definitely pick one over the two so they don't take away from each other. Now that we got a little definition onto the crease, we're gonna move on to the eyelid. I think for a bride, it's always nice for her to have a little shimmer, a little highlight on the eye. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the gold from our liquid matte right over here. Let's place that onto the palette. And this will basically act as like an eyeshadow primer. Take another brush, this time a smaller brush, and I think I'm gonna go with this one right over here, the 119, picking up that gold liquid matte onto the eyelid. No higher than your crease. And then we're gonna set that with Glitz from the High Fashion palette because this has a little bit more of the gold factor. Honestly, this is a really great practice for you to incorporate while you're in quarantine. I think it's really relaxing to do a face chart during your downtime and just to really perfect your blending skills, your fine line work, how to incorporate, you know, different color theories. I think it's a good way to just keep practicing that. So by the time we're back in school, you're all ready to go. So now we're gonna keep that brush, and we started with gentle in the crease. Now we're gonna add a little bit of sequence right on that outer edge. I think it's always nice for the bride to have a little bit of a lift. So focusing on that outer crease and not connecting it all the way in will really create a nice lift. And I would also transition this into the bottom of the eye. You can also go back and forth with a clean brush. So I'm gonna go ahead and take number 113 because it has this nice angle and start to blend that into one another with the gentle that we used earlier. Beautiful. Blend that out. Gorgeous. All right, I think she's ready for some liquid liner. So we're gonna take our black liquid matte, which is right over here. Place that onto my palette. And let's go back to that really thin brush. Or if you're more comfortable with an angle brush, then you can utilize that as well. Honestly, I kind of go back and forth. I sometimes will use the thin brush. I sometimes will use the angle brush. But I think it's always best to start on the inner corner and then work your way onto the center of the eyelid. And then as you're getting outside, that's where it turns into basically a triangle. So it's thin and then thicker at the base. And as long as you keep that outer part the thinnest, then that is what equals a successful winged out liner. So basically when you're working with face chart on lashes, I'm gonna demonstrate it on this side first as just a larger example. The goal is to create this sphere. So you want your eye, which is the round part, to look like it's popping out. So in order to do that, you have to remember the rules of alignment. So the lash usually in the center is going to grow straight up. The lash on the outer corner will be the longest part that goes on the outside, going towards the tail of your eyebrow, and the same thing for the lower lash. And then over here, you go towards the tear duct, but not as long as the outside. And then at that point, you have to remember that these lashes are going this direction, and then these lashes on this side are always going this direction. So now let's do a better job on our beauty over here. I think it's important to keep this part like almost flat. Okay, so that's my map. So now I know that these are going to grow in this direction. I'm actually outside on my downstairs deck, so if you hear probably our neighbors or birds chirping, that's why, because we're outside right now. I can't wait to do this on myself. Lashes are one of those things that honestly you have to practice often. And I would also encourage you practice in different mediums. Try pencils, pens, liquid liner, try the liquid matte, maybe wetting your eyeshadow with some water. You could do that as well. Gorgeous. And then let's not forget to color in the iris with a beautiful variety of shades. So you could add some liquid matte in there if you want to. Actually, the liquid matte on the eyes is really pretty. So let's do some of that. Because who doesn't have yellow eyeballs, right? All right, so moving on to the lips. So we completed our complexion, we completed our eyeshadow, our eyeliner, our mascara. So now we're gonna move on to the lips. So I think, because clearly I think the look for this, the focal point is the eye. So I think for the lip, it's good to do like a mid-tone lip. So not a red, but not like a nude. So something in between. So I would say like a mauve. So I'm gonna take this lip liner called Naked. And I'm gonna actually use the lip liner onto the face chart, outlining the top and the bottom. And I'm going to take a small brush that's number 106, which is great for lip liner, but also for a real lip application. And I'm technically just pushing the lip liner onto the face chart, but I'm going to leave some negative space in the center to create the illusion of volume. So by keeping the definition of the product more on the outside perimeter of the lip, allows the lip to look fuller. So I'm basically contouring the lip, and this would work on a real person as well. Hope you guys are enjoying this, staying safe. Learning on your own, I know, can be difficult, but I'm happy that we at least have this once a week to just encourage you, check in. So again, if you are thinking of any questions throughout this demonstration, please write them down so you have an opportunity to ask during the chat at the end of our 45 minutes. Gorgeous. All right, so I think there she is. We are done with our face chart. This is our final look over here. So I'm going to transfer all of this onto myself. So I'm a little bit more on the oily side. So I'm going to start with hydration. And this is Embryolisse Rose Water Extract, which is just like a water misting spray. So I'm going to take some of that and just spray it all over. I'm going to go ahead and clean my hands also because I have been using that for the face chart. So I need to make sure that that is sanitized. And for moisturizer, I'm going to use the Hydra Matte, also by Embryolisse. And I'm going to go ahead and incorporate the same brush that I'm going to use to apply the makeup on myself. So this is brush number 113. So I'm just going to take some of that moisturizer, onto my palette and then pick it up from the palette onto myself. So just like so. Start down the center of the eyes and basically the T-zone. And I love these brushes because it is a vegan, animal cruelty free, just like our entire line is. Make sure that you moisturize the eyelid as well as the lower eyelid part. Sorry for the beard. I'm not going to shave that off. That's my quarantine look, but I hope you can create the illusion of the bridal look. All right, so after you have moisturized your face, you're gonna use our primer, which is right over here. This is the face primer, and place that onto the palette as well. Just about a pea-sized amount. Take that same brush that we use and down the center of the face, also the eyelids, basically anywhere you want the makeup to last all day. On a real bride, I would also make sure that I incorporate some of this onto the neck. You want everything to look the same. You don't want it to be like perfect base and then the neck is a completely different other texture and color. So even go behind the ear, everything needs to be nice and cohesive. Perfect. So while we're there, I'm going to start to introduce our newest foundation, which none of you have experienced yet, but it basically will look just like this. You're going to turn it and that's how the product will come out. And this is an HD finish, which is ideal for television, for basically even just social media, because everything is in HD quality now. So I'm going to take a couple shades to really perfect the tone for myself, because I have different skin tones all over my face, just like everybody does. So I'm going to have a light, a medium, and a dark. And then with those three, I can really customize and perfect it. So the goal is right now is to get something kind of sheer onto the entirety of the face. And at that point, I can see where I need to focus on for more corrective work. So I think it's important to maybe go in with a little bit more of that primer, which is what I just did. So now I'm going to go ahead and mix the light and the dark of the new liquid foundation. Again, none of us have experienced this yet, but we've been testing it out and finalized the formula, and we are obsessed with this new formula. So once I have about a sheer coat, I just mixed 2 shades to perfect it. I'm going to start down the center of my face. And because this brush is a vegan brush, it's all synthetic, it really blends on nice and even. I'm going to step back that way. I always like to use a mirror if I'm in a salon setting, so I can really see from a distance what I need to perfect. So I'm kind of starting in the center and then I'm working my way out. What I feel is important to do at this point is to go in with a clean brush, so there's nothing on this, and I'm gonna act almost like it's an airbrush effect. So I don't want anything on this brush. I'm just gonna go in, and it basically blends out any little streaks that this brush might have left as I applied it. So blending that all over. Don't forget the neck. Gotta get that neck. All right, so at this point, you step away and you really pay attention to what needs more coverage. So I would say underneath the eye, little dots here and there. And so now that everything has been even, it's a little bit more flat. We want to bring back that dimension by highlighting and contouring. So that's where we incorporate our corrective palette that has shades like neutralizer red, highlight, light, ultralight, dark, and medium. So these are mainly to correct and highlight, and these are going to be for contouring. So I'm going to start with the light, which has more of the orange. I think this is going to be nice for someone that's more on the fair side. I'm a little bit more olive and darker complected. So light will be ideal for myself and anybody more tan. So let's go ahead and pick up some of that color, place it onto the palette right over here. And I'm going to place it right on top of the foundation that we used earlier. And I'm going to add a little bit of the dark as well. Yeah, right over here. Perfect. So I basically have my two, I like to call them toners. You know how when you do hair, you also tone the hair? So this is like your toner for your face, basically. Again, this is incorporating the co-mixology philosophy that we like to incorporate with all our products. So this is my opportunity to really perfect and correct areas that I feel need a little bit more attention. So starting with the under eye area. And notice that I'm using the same brush that I used to apply the foundation. That's intentional. I'm also going to highlight down the bridge of the nose. And start to perfect and correct those little dots that you see. If you're not sure where to highlight and contour, you can take a brush and measure the side of your nose and right above your ear. That's basically your highlight. If you keep that on the corner of your mouth to the center of your ear, that's your contour. So I'm going to repeat that. At the tip of your nose, above your ear is your highlight. The corner of your mouth, center of your nose, that's your contour. And this works for any face shape. So if you practice this, the more you do it, the naturally your eye will develop that on its own. So honestly, I'm more on the oily side. So now that I have more emollient products, emollient means that it has water and cream infused into the ingredients. So I'm gonna stop with the emollients. I'm gonna go ahead and set this now. If I was more on the drier side, I would continue to use the darker shades of the palette to contour my face, but because I'm more oily in combination, I'm gonna move on to my powders to set and then my darker powders to contour. So I hope that makes sense. Let's go ahead and set that using the powder 0 right over here. If you want to make this into a translucent powder, it's very easy to take your spoolie and just kind of scrape some of it off. But honestly, like, I am obsessed with this powder because it just really sets it nicely and it makes everything look like it was already there. Like, it doesn't look like I'm wearing a ton of foundation. So now we're going to move on to the powder bronze, and that's going to be my contouring shade. And I'm going to incorporate a brush that has an angle, which is the 114 right over here. So we talked about where we highlight, now where we're going to contour right over here. Can't forget the hairline. If you highlight and contour properly, you can really perfect and sculpt your face and lose up to 5 pounds for that perfect photo. But it can also be overdone. So you need to be smart about it. Remember that it has a purpose. You're not doing it just to do it. You're doing it because it has a function. All right. So the best way to determine the blush is to clean your lips and look at the natural lip color of your lip. And that's how you can pick out the proper blush. So for me, I think I'm going to choose the American Beauty because it has that mauve kind of tone and a little bit of the Just Peachy. I'm going to smile and then just focus right on that apple. And I'm kind of connecting it to the contour, which I have left over on my palette right over here. And I'm going to incorporate our brush number 111, which has this beautiful dome kind of flat part. I'm going to take the belly of that and start to incorporate it on the eyelid. The goal with this is to keep it minimal with the amount of product, so you don't want to overdo it because we've already laid down powder. The powder is 0, and it can lift all of that hard work that you did earlier. So a little bit goes a long way. And then we're going to take our eyeshadows. So let's start with our smoky palette right over here. So we're going to take our Eclipse, or our lightest color, to highlight the brow bone. Right over here. Utilizing the gold from the liquid matte, which is right here, as my eyeshadow base. So I'm going to place that onto the palette and then apply that onto my eyelid. Not gorgeous? I love this color. It's the glitz that we use from our high fashion palette, which is right over here. I'm going to move on to brush number 112, which is a softer blending brush. And for that, I'm going to start to contour the crease using the Gentle eyeshadow, which is the more taupey shade right in the center. And really just focusing on the outer edge. Our liquid matte in black. Our thin brush, number 101, right over here. So kind of get the base of it on there first, and then worry about the corners after. And you need this to dry before you actually like look up. If you mess up, you can take a clean angle brush and kind of clean it around it just to reshape it. For lip gloss, I am mixing these two. They are called Wildberry and Candy Pink. I would definitely incorporate a lip liner, lipstick, liquid matte, and the gloss at the very end. Here's her complete look. Definitely not as pretty as she is, but you get the idea. I would say continue to practice on your face charts, continue to practice on yourselves. Take this time to just perfect your blending, your fine line work, and any of the issues that you might have been having earlier. Thank you so much, everybody. Stay safe. Sending you some love from Los Angeles. CAO Cosmetics is sending you much love back. Make sure that you're following us at CAOCosmetics.com. For any questions, you email info@caocosmeticsusa.com. Lastly, we always do a feature Friday. So if you hashtag CAO Cosmetics and tag us on your Instagram, we are always happy to reshare our community's work, whether it's on yourself or someone else. You guys stay safe, stay tuned, and make sure you turn on your notifications for CAO Cosmetics. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And we will see you at the next class. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye, everybody.